The reason that hunters, I would say, despise in many cases wolves is because we're competing for the same resource, right? Like we're in
Yeah.
competition for the same thing. We want deer, they want deer, and so anything that's going to get in the way of a hunter's success hunting deer is going to make them mad.
What's up, everybody? JD here. Welcome to the Huntxp podcast and a special 3-episode drop, mostly about wolves. So let me give you a little bit of the backstory here. We reached out to our audience for suggestions of guests. They hooked us up with a guest named Steve Porter, who we had this wide-ranging conversation, but we queued it up mostly to talk about wolves in Minnesota. We got into wolves and their relationship with hunters, how there's a lot of tension in Minnesota and other states. Why can't we hunt them? Why are their populations so high? That episode really sparked some curiosity, and we were like, hey, we want to hear directly from the DNR and learn more about their approach to wolves, particularly in Minnesota, but it has some translation to other states where wolves are. So we went and did that. And we reached out to the DNR, and they connected us with Dan Stark, who's the chief large carnivore specialist for Minnesota and is directly involved in helping the rebound of the wolf population in Minnesota. And there's tons of insights that he has to offer as well. And then Jonny and I just wanted to process what we had learned from these two guests. So what you're going to receive in this 3-episode drop is a couple different perspectives on what's going on with wolves in Minnesota as it relates to hunters. Why can't we hunt them? Why can't hunting be a part of it? How much do wolves actually play in the population of whitetail or other animals in Minnesota? We're going to get into all of that. It didn't fit into one episode. We're going to hear from different voices. Here's what I'd love for you to do. If you're a hunter or someone who just cares about wildlife, listen up to all these different perspectives. And we're giving you these different perspectives so that you can be more informed in your opinion and perspective, so that you can be a more informed hunter, so you can understand wolves better. And we'd love to hear from you. So let us know what you think about this. And hopefully you learn something. Hopefully you become a better hunter. Hopefully all these conversations help you level up your hunt. Let's jump into the episode. Welcome to the next episode of the Huntxp podcast. We are excited to have you listening in. JD here, Jonny, just the two of us tonight. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a riot.
The original two.
Jonny. So here's the thing. We kind of just blew right by 20 episodes. I know we were making a big deal about that a couple episodes ago. Boom, right by it. So that means we're like top 20% podcasters that have made it past that number. So
You know how I
any
said I was going
thoughts
to
or
surprise
reflections?
you? Do you know how
I do know.
said I would
I do
surprise
remember
you?
that.
Okay. Well, are you ready? Are you?
I have no idea. Yeah, I'm ready.
So, as an award for you, here is a Smith knife sharpener that
Nice.
was sitting in my basement right next to me right now, that I did not plan on giving you. You may also have
Are you giving away your dad's stuff?
Dad, I hope you're not watching, this small canvas back decoy.
Dude, if I wasn't mildly afraid of Mike still from my teenage years, I would totally take that. But no, I'm going to keep that with Mike. Thank you,
Yep.
dude.
You're
Hey,
welcome.
great job. Great job, you. Great job, Jonny. Great job, listener. Thank you for sticking with us through this. If you've listened to all 20 whatever this is, dude, this has been so fun for us. Hope it's been fun for you. We'd love to hear from you. We've got some great guests coming up as well on the pod. We've got some great episodes coming up. So we're stoked. Thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind, it would be a huge help. One of the things we'd love to see is you guys rating us on Spotify, or we're on Apple Podcasts now. We were dragging our feet with that, but we're on there now, and YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. We really are trying to build a community, and community needs communication. And sometimes we like to hear actual people, communicate. And you do. But then there's some randos on the internet who also say things. So balance it out. Balance it out, y'all. And say something about what you appreciate about this. And we would love to hear what you'd like to hear. If you're just joining us for this episode, maybe you haven't listened to an episode before, welcome. Huntxp is a community that exists to level up each other's hunting game. So we try to have a lot of fun on here, bring a lot of different guests on, talk about different things related to hunting. We're primarily in the upper Midwest. I'm based in Minnesota. Johnny's based in Wisconsin. We love pretty much all types of hunting that the Northwoods affords us. So if that's up your alley, maybe you're not even in the Northwoods and you like big game hunting out west, we talk a lot about that. We got a crew kind of all over different parts of the country. So stay tuned. Let us know who you are and let us know how you'd like to level up your game, and we'll join you in doing it. That's who we are. How you been, Johnny? What's good? What's new?
Oh man, coming off I know this is after the fact, but coming off a youth turkey season, and what a blast. My boys both got toms this weekend, and man, Jude specifically got to be right over his shoulder in a running and gunning situation. It was fantastic. So I'm feeling really
Dude, that's the
good.
best.
It's awesome. Yeah. Life is good.
It's so fun to know that you're hunting and then to see a text message come in from you with an image. I'm like, yes, dude. Yeah, that's so fun to see. And those are memories that are going to stick with you for a while too. And did you say it was Jude's first one off the tripod, out of the blind, running and gunning? That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, he shot his first tom last year. His first season he went out, shot his first tom, but in a blind and a tripod, which has its time and place. I do it from time to time. I know a lot of people do it, but for a kid, it's probably the easiest intro, right? You're shooting off a tripod, you're in a blind, so your movement's concealed. But we had to make a move quick on a bird that was fired up, and we did. And I said, Jude, we're leaving the tripod, and you're gonna have to do this. And he's like, okay, I think I can do it. And we get in the woods.
That's the best.
I mean, the bird read the script, did everything we wanted to, and pulled him into 15 yards. And Jude spotted him first, actually, the terrain feature that was in the way. Like, I couldn't see him, and all of a sudden, Jude's like, he's right there. And he did it all. I mean, he pulled it off. He just folded the bird. It was great.
That's so cool. Just like circumstance is the best teacher, right? Like you could prep for that, but like thrusting them. Sorry, we got to leave the tripod behind. Yeah, it's hard to beat that experience.
And we had not ever prepped for no tripod, so that was cool. And also, I apologize to those of you who watch some hunting videos on our YouTube channel. There was no chance I was going to be able to film this. I was coaching him, and I will not sacrifice his success for a video.
If you haven't figured it out yet, where our filming skills are at is basically experience first, film second. So that means that you miss out, listener and watcher of our YouTube channel, on some moments, but we're gonna record those in our brain before we record them on the camera, kind of unapologetically. So sorry about that, but it doesn't mean we won't capture some cool ones. It just means when given the choice or the circumstance, we may choose otherwise.
Yep.
Yes. Well, dude, I would like to do some more shout outs. I'd love to give some shout outs to our growing Instagram community. Keeps leveling up. Some cool people keep joining. So drum roll, please get ready for some butchering of handles.
Yes.
Oh, sorry in advance.
You are the king of that.
Yep. Here we go. We should mention this. Maybe I don't know where this episode's going to fit in, but totally last time we did shout outs, we pointed out a particular guy, Aggressively Average Outdoors. And I'm pretty sure he's going to come on the pod. We've been texting, we've been messaging like, dude, let's make it happen. So hopefully it happens sometime in the next few episodes here, or maybe it already has. We'll see when this one drops.
And hey, you know what? Could be you. Could be you next.
Could be you next. Listen,
Who knows?
we'll tag you
Yeah.
in it. Here's some Insta shout outs.
Boy, already?
I look at the first one. Here we go. Ogla cornbread. OGL lug cornbread. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cornbread with a K. I don't know what's going on there.
Go with that.
Thanks for the follow, dude. Jordan Parson, 607. Christopher, 1218. Becca Walker. Brother Austin. Thank you, Brother Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden Webb 2. Kansas bow hunting 13. Man, I hope we get to do that. Kansas bow hunting. Bucket list. Let's go. Chasing feathers. It's good, man. Waterfowl stuff, I'm imagining. Maybe turkey. Who knows?
Could be.
Tana Banana 07.
Hannah Banana.
Tana Banana.
Hannah.
Or maybe
Tana?
it's Tana. Sorry. Tana or Tana Banana.
Well, probably.
I'm going to go with Tana Banana.
I'm going to go with, because it rhymes with banana.
Yep. Let's see here. Consumed outdoors. They're probably mad at me for pronouncing it that way. Sorry. It just felt right to say consumed.
I agree.
Outdoors. D-Beard B. D-Beard B. EB Hunting. Project Whitetail Official. Sounds official.
It does.
Max Binger. Thanks, dude. I don't know why that's funny. We're not going to put that. I'm not going to laugh at Max. Hooper Isaac. I'm laughing at. I don't know. It just sounds funny to me.
All right.
I'm not gonna do that though.
Yep.
National Bow Hunter Education Foundation. Those guys. Appreciate the follow. We know them. Let's see. Rifleman NZ. Dude, a Kiwi.
Well, yeah.
Man, I'd love to have him on the pod. NZ as in New Zealand. Yes. He's a Kiwi from New Zealand. Sweet. Rifleman Contracting Ltd. Got a picture of a stag. Dude, let's... Although we might need to, be up at 2 a.m. to talk to that guy. I don't know. But okay. That'd be pretty sick.
We have kids. We're up.
We got kids. All right, we'll leave it at that. We appreciate your follows, guys. Appreciate joining the conversation. And hopefully you appreciate the shout out. So... thank you. What's up, everybody? JD here, coming to you with an ask. If you are a listener of the Huntxp podcast, if you've listened to a few of these episodes, it would go a huge, long way for what we're trying to accomplish here, building a bigger community of people who are trying to level up each other's game. If you would go ahead and rate the podcast on Spotify, if you just go ahead and drop that 5-star rating in. If you're thinking about a 3-star, maybe not so much. But if you want to give us a comment, 5-star rating, it would be awesome. If you want to share this with a buddy who you think would enjoy all of the shenanigans we get into on this podcast. So share, you're probably already subscribed, but if you're not, do so. And the last bit that's a huge help is to rate us on Spotify so more people can join this crazy train. All right, Johnny, one more thing, and then I'd love to talk about wolves. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do. We're going to do a little check in the comms because this happened. So we got a comment on one of our shorts where we discussed the killing of turkeys.
Okay.
And someone, I'm not even going to say his handle. You can find it if you're really interested. Just said, oh, the lengths that people will go to commit murder. Oh. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think that it would depend on your definition of murder. Also depend on your stance clearly on the right to hunt. And
yeah,
I'm going to go with, I don't love the comment, but hey, you have mine.
There's all kinds of kinds, Johnny. I think you said that before. Yeah.
I have said that. So what you would consider murder, I do not, and that's okay.
My standard response in these situations is, you better be vegan.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm like, you ain't got nothing. Yep. You better be vegan or vegetarian at least, and then we can talk. Talk. Baseline.
I'm going to go one further on that. And hey, I seriously, like, I'm super thankful for hardworking people that provide meat to grocery stores and all that stuff. But I just gotta say, when we drive out to Colorado, we pass some pretty massive beef farms on the way out there, and it makes me sad. It makes me a little bit sad when I see
Yeah, dude.
when you see those animals just like existing to like then not exist. And I think to myself, I love fair chasing an animal in the mountains or wherever I'm at, and then putting that on my table instead. But that's just a perspective I've had.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the common turn. If someone wants to respectfully enter into a conversation with me about hunting, I think that's my first question to them. Like, do you know where your food comes from? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I don't know where all my food comes from, but I know where a good chunk of it comes from,
Yeah.
and I'm actively involved in that. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude, for saying that. I don't know who you are, but you better be vegan.
You
Just
better
saying.
be. Yep.
All right, Johnny, it's time. Let's talk about wolves.
Yes.
So this episode is one that we didn't necessarily imagine or plan out, but it seemed right to us. We wanted to create just some conversations that were sparked around wolves, and I know wolves can be a very kind of heated discussion among hunters and different groups in the population who care about wildlife. And I think what happened is it kind of sparked our curiosity. We wanted to first talk to Steve Porter about it based on someone's recommendation, heard some things from him. And I think both of our guts was like, we got to just talk to the source here. Like we got to talk to someone who is involved in the management of these animals to get some more information. I think I don't want to speak on your behalf, but that was kind of
Oh yeah.
the impulse that we shared. And then we heard from Dan Stark, and that was fascinating. I just want to say, listener, here's our deal. We're not trying to convince anyone necessarily one way or the other. We are trying to just encourage people to have curiosity where there's disagreement and try to hear from people that maybe you haven't heard before. It felt right to us to hear from Steve and then to hear from Dan, someone who's been working on wolves. And what we'd ultimately like to do tonight is just tell you where we're at in kind of processing where we incorporate wolves in our thoughts as hunters, and some things maybe we learned from each guest, some things that were taken away, and how we might be looking at the situation differently or the same or have more questions after all those conversations. So Johnny, why don't we just start? Like, describe to me kind of the biggest things that are still sticking with you from those two conversations. Not all of Steve's episode was about wolves specifically, but that was the invite that we brought him on for. That's the thing that we're most interested in. So talk to us a little bit. What's standing out to you?
Yeah, I think going into the whole conversation with Steve, I think I would say, like many hunters in northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, if I were pressed to answer, like, do you think wolves are a problem? I would say yes, and I would say they need to be regulated. And I would say that the reason the deer numbers are lower in these areas, which they are right now, I would say it's because of wolves 100%. I think I would put probably all the blame on the wolf population. And I think many hunters in these areas share that same thing or that same thought. Now, after hearing from Dan, and um, I actually studied wildlife biology in college as well, and I have a degree in that as well. And hearing him talk about it really made me pause and maybe remember some of my schooling and some of the things I learned studying that. And I don't know, I think I'm thinking about this all a little bit differently now. I will say that I still believe the wolves need to be regulated, but I think I can't put all the blame on the lower deer population on the wolves now. So
Hmm.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. So a lot of what was happening while we were talking to both Steve and Dan was translating for Wisconsin. Are there anything that you've noticed as a hunter in Wisconsin that are a little bit different, or maybe you saw a deeper level of connection between these borderland states when we're primarily talking to Minnesotans about wolves?
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting, and you'll have to correct, since I wasn't in on the conversation, I just listened to the recording. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one thing I remember him saying is that the wolves from northern Minnesota they basically traveled to northern Wisconsin and the UP rather than going south. And I guess where I'm going with that is I think I didn't really know that, and I wasn't sure exactly where our larger population had came from, but things that I have noticed, because he said the population in northern Minnesota seems to be holding relatively steady, right? Like not astronomical growth, like most of us probably thought. However, I don't know that that takes into account the amount that have come into northern Wisconsin, northern Michigan per se. And I think from my own experience, I had never seen a wolf in my life. Hunting, being in the woods from the time I was young all the way through high school. The first time I saw a wolf like a live wolf was when I was in college. I came back and was hunting in northern Wisconsin and I saw a wolf for the first time. And I see plenty of wolves now. So that's how I know, and it's in the same areas. So that's one thing that I've noticed over the span of my lifetime. And I don't think you can just discredit that. And I think a lot of people have the same story of, hey, there wasn't any wolves. I had never seen them, not many tracks, but now I see wolves, and I see wolf tracks all the time in areas that I hunt now.
Yeah. Yep. I think so. I went into it kind of like, oh, this is what I hear hunters primarily in Wisconsin because I'm connected to that. And then more publicly in Minnesota, I've heard murmurings of that tension and angst. So I think it's very simplistic to go like more wolves, less deer. And I, with you, was kind of like, after talking to Dan, like there is certainly a connection, but it's a little bit more complicated than I had anticipated. And it was interesting to hear those things. I think the overall thing that I'm taking away is I think we just want more deer.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Like,
is that. Yeah.
I feel like I found myself as a listener and engaging in the conversation. Like, let's not lose that. Like, we just want more deer. And one of the solutions for more deer could be knocking out a little bit of the predation in the regions in particular that we're talking about, like pockets of northern Minnesota where the wolves are very concentrated in big mature timber, and in northern Wisconsin, because northern Wisconsin is big tracts of public land or like logging land. They thrive there. And let's not let that detract from the other conversations and things that happen from a conservation perspective that influence deer population, because I think it would be great if at the federal level the endangered species was removed and it opened the doors for season. Because I heard loud and clear from someone who's directly managing the wolf population in Minnesota. He's like, we're ready for it. We've been ready for it. We've
Yep.
asked for it. And
Yep.
there's all these political, whether they be technicalities, or I think that there's some merit to what Steve is saying about political will, and it depends on the dynamic of people's perception. And even Dan was saying that. He's like, I can tell you the science that a herd or a pack, it's not a pack. What would you call the whole wolf population? That's what I'm trying to say. Wolf
I,
population.
yeah, I think you just call it the
They
herd.
can, the herd. It's the herd, y'all. They can handle some hunting. That's what I heard. Like he's like, we got the numbers. We're okay with it. Yeah. So that's what I'm like, I think at the end of the day, we're all fine. The wolves are fine with
Yep.
more deer. You know?
Yeah. Right.
And I think it was particularly interesting too. I asked Dan at one point, I was like, are you concerned with the deer numbers dipping so low if the predation rate, like the number of wolves that, or the number of kills that the wolves need to make to meet their nutrition quota, like, aren't you concerned that like that dips to a point where there's kind of, it becomes more increasingly harder for the deer population to bounce back because they're kind of below that threshold? And I was a little unsatisfied with this answer. It just seems logical that if the deer population dips lower, that they're going to keep that, the wolves are going to keep that population. And I still have a suspicion if that's kind of what's happening in parts of northern Wisconsin and northern Minnesota.
Yep. For sure. I think a
Yeah.
couple interesting things for me too are like, you know, you talked about when you had challenged Dan on the Wisconsin season that they held a couple years ago and how it was filled. And he thought within 3 days, you thought within one day. I had always thought it was one day. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 3 days. That's an insanely short amount of time. And he had kind of cited that, maybe it was the methods that they use to hunt. They use hounds and other things too. But even so, I just think the fact that you could fill that quota so quickly shows that the population is high. And it was actually really refreshing for me to hear Dan say, like, yeah, they could be regulated with a hunting season. And I don't know that he said it directly, but maybe in fact that they should be regulated with a hunting season. Um,
He certainly said
that,
that the population's healthy enough for that in
yeah.
Minnesota in particular.
So that to me was like actually really refreshing to hear him say that and not just, no, they shouldn't be hunted at all. So I thought that was neat. I think a couple other things like at base value, right? The reason that hunters, I would say, despise in many cases wolves is because we're competing for the same resource, right? Like we're in
Yeah.
competition for the same thing. We want deer, they want deer, and so anything that's going to get in the way of a hunter's success hunting deer is going to make them mad. That's just the thing. Like years and years ago, and you can go anywhere with this conversation, but like you can bait deer in northern Wisconsin in certain counties, and years
Hmm.
ago they took that away and that made people really mad. And then they brought it back. And then there was years where you had to earn a buck and shoot a doe
Hmm.
first because the doe population was out of control, and that made
Yeah.
people mad. But any change to like what you see as or anything that you would see as like a threatening piece to your success as a hunter is gonna probably aggravate you. That's human
Yeah.
nature.
Totally. Totally, man. I was really fascinating to me to hear Dan review the history of wolves, and you touched on this earlier. Like the migration is not the right word, but like the dispersing of the gray wolf into northern Wisconsin, because it
Yeah.
tracks with my experience. Mine is almost the same as yours, where like we didn't really talk about wolves when I started hunting in northern
No.
Wisconsin. And then around my college years, which was like 2006 to 10, I'm like started seeing them at the hunting shack, you know?
Yeah.
And if you just track the, so one of my question marks, and it would be fascinating to kind of pool our kind of network of hunters, was he mentioned, you know, population boom in certain areas and logging and habitat as more of a factor in deer population in certain areas. And I don't know about that. Makes sense that like if there's more logging in a particular area and there's just bountiful food for deer populations that they're going to thrive more, to that degree, and then the absence of that being such a precipitous drop in population, I'm not sure, but it does kind of track a little bit with our own kind of ongoing narrative, at least that I'm vaguely connected with in northern Wisconsin, where it's like hunting was great. It was easy to shoot a 2.5-year-old eight pointer
Right.
when I was just getting started. And then and the logging was happening everywhere, and there was a lot of deer. And then it wasn't so much. And then there wasn't. So, and then there was a lot of wolves. So that rough kind of equation is in my mind. And I don't know that it's possible to tell, but I'm at least partial to think that certainly some of those habitat features do play an influence on deer population. What proportion to wolves? I don't know. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just a good thing though to keep those things in mind. That's what the nice thing was for me to just like listen to him. This is has been his life for 20 years. He's in charge of management of the wolf population in Minnesota. And to hear him say like, or I guess to be reminded of, hey, yes, wolves are a contributing factor. Of course, they're going to hunt deer, but there's also these other things. And the other things did make sense. Now, I can also, of course, appreciate Steve Porter's sentiment too, as representing a hunter who has seen numbers dip or at least perceived that way. One thing that I thought was really interesting, and I would have to look up some data on it too, but in Wisconsin, especially northern Wisconsin, I know In the counties that I hunt, the deer harvest numbers have been down most years. This year, maybe there was a slight increase on opening day anyway, but
Hmm.
Dan brought up from Minnesota that the number of hunters has decreased, or the number of people, buying tags. And so that's also something I didn't consider either, because you and I, we come from families where every year everyone buys a tag. That's just what you do. But it sounds like some people are opting out of doing that. Now, they could be doing that because they're like, there's no deer because of the wolves or whatever their reason is. But, that could
Right.
be why. But if it's true that there are less hunters, then of course there's a correlation with lower deer harvest.
Yeah. I think this was kind of one of the biggest things that I'm walking away from these conversations with, particularly with Dan. Here's a guy who has worked his butt off to bring the wolf population back to health, and it's abundantly back to health. Some would say even more than what the numbers are being reported. And it's even shifted over to northern Wisconsin and the UP. But what you just picked up on there is a decrease in hunter participation. There's less people our age and younger participating in the sport. And really what that means is that our societal perspective is shrinking. And so, when we talk about, I'm kind of apolitical, particularly in this area, but when we talk about being able to represent our perspective honestly, that we love the pursuit of whitetails and it's a part of our tradition and it's a part of our food consumption plan for our families, the less of our friends that hunt, the less people having that concern in that story. And therefore, the less influence it has. Because basically, at the end of the conversation, Dan was like, hey, the science that is there to support season. And like Minnesota had, but like you could get a tag along with your whitetail tag. And if you see one, just down it and tag it. Like for that sort of reality to exist, obviously there's some like removal from the endangered species list or whatever federal thing needs to happen. But in order for there to actually be a season in place, I think what needs to happen is there needs to be more hunters who articulate how it's a benefit to them to have a wolf season. And that's almost the more concerning thing. The less people that have the experiences like we have, who are even having these conversations, then the narrative of the conversation, its impact on whitetails gets minimalized and its impact on our experience gets minimalized. And that's not necessarily, it doesn't really matter how many wolves or how many deer wolves are killing at that point. If voices aren't heard or we're not able to communicate our perspective respectfully in these sort of ways where we're listening to each other and offering that, then whatever, dude. Like we can just complain until you're blue in the face. Right. So take a buddy hunting, like that's the takeaway. Like take your kids hunting, like get more people into the sport, get them out in the woods, give them that experience and let them not just hear you bitch and moan about wolves, but experience what the joy of more deer around is,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox now, Johnny. Sorry.
No, I like your soapbox. I like it a lot. Yeah. I think at the end of the conversation, hearing from Steve, hearing from Dan, I've definitely fallen in the camp of wolves need to be regulated with a season. What that looks like, I don't know. But what I really, really appreciated again is to hear Dan say, yeah, the herd is healthy. The pack is healthy. They could be regulated with a season. And what the funny thing is too, is that when I hear Steve and Dan, and like Steve's very, very loud about his opinion on this, and that's okay. And I would say like, he probably doesn't want to be in the same room as Dan, or maybe he does, but he would not probably have a really civil conversation with him. But Dan is in agreement, essentially. Dan is in agreement. Yeah. And so if you can just sit down and have a civil conversation and like see the humanity in someone and realize, dude, you guys are saying the same thing. Yeah, there's a lot of wolves and they could be regulated with the season. Fantastic. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's the big takeaway. Like if you have, like just personal takeaway for me, like if you have the patience and persistence, like we emailed the DNR like 4 or 5 times. we kept calling because we had this sense like, hey, we got to learn this side of it. And that was the big takeaway. It's like, hey, let's do this. And whether we have societal will to allow that will happen, who knows? But if it's open to us, like there's consensus on it being a meaningful tool in conservation of wolves. It being hunting is what I mean, or
And
trapping.
full disclosure, I did not expect the DNR to want to talk to us, and I did not expect that response from them. And that
Hmm.
was really cool. I thought that was really, really cool that they took the time to do that, that Dan took the time to do that. Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
DNR, if you're listening, please keep talking to us. We'd love to keep talking to you. We do want to understand, even though there's often contention
There is,
between.
yeah. There
Yeah,
always will be tension, I feel, between hunters and the DNR. Again, because they're the ones put in charge of regulating something that we really love to do.
yeah, yeah. Any more thoughts, Johnny, or just even little tidbits that you're like, oh, dang, that's interesting?
Yeah, if you listen to Dan's episode and, since the popularity of trail cameras over the years, and people being able to pick up pictures of cougars in different areas, that
That was
conversation you had
fascinating.
with him about the cougars was fascinating to me for sure.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't captured one on any of my trail cameras yet, which I am very thankful for, but
Yeah,
I know people who have in our area, so they're around for sure.
it's good. Well, now it's time to hear from you. If you haven't already, put something in the comments. You might be really fired up about this and have a really strong opinion, or a story of how your hunting experience has changed over the last few years vis-a-vis wolves. Or maybe you have harvested a wolf before and you have insight on, maybe you were one of those people who filled a tag in Wisconsin that we've been referencing, or one of those people who used to, I forget when the season was in Minnesota that we had a 3-year season, but maybe you're one of the people who did that, and maybe you can give us your thoughts on that. Let's keep chatting about it. We want to hear from you. Keep chatting in the comments. Again, wolves will come up inevitably because we're in the upper Midwest, hunting whitetail, but now we'll be more informed and take the approach of kind of talking with people from different angles of the situation. And let's keep hunting, man. More whitetails, more deer for
More
everyone,
whitetail.
for the wolves and for us, more deer. That's honestly what I'm walking away with. It's just like more deer, man. Let's go.
Here's what I was walking away with. I'm walking away with, yes, the same sentiment, more deer, but I'm walking away with like, wolves, I still want to hunt you and still think you should be hunted, but
Yes.
I guess I can't put all the blame on you as much as I want to. I still
Yeah, that's
blame you.
fair.
I still blame
Yep.
you, but I can't put
Yep.
all of it on you like I used to. But I still blame you.
But you're still eating my deer.
Yeah. But stop eating my deer.
Stop eating my deer. Oh, they're yours too. I
Yeah.
respect what Dan said too at the end. Like you got to respect them as fellow predators. They're scrappy. They're awesome creatures. They're like their ability to survive and what they've got to do to get there to harvest. Like they got to work hard to harvest. Like we just like pull the trigger. They've got to work hard to harvest that stuff. Their
Yeah.
season's open all year round though, so they've got that.
Yeah.
They've got that
Yeah.
going. They've got that going for them.
Their season is not regulated.
It's good. Well, those are
That's
our
good.
thoughts on wolves, y'all. Thanks for walking through this 3-episode journey with us. Again, share your thoughts. Hey, man, this is not all we talk about, but it's an interesting little tangent, little thing. Most of our conversations center around what we're after, what we're hunting, and we'd love for you to like, subscribe, tell us what you'd like to learn about, tell us who you'd like to hear from, and let's keep rolling.
I will say that is how this whole conversation came about. It was a recommendation
Yeah.
from one of our listeners. So thank you.
Hey, yeah,
Thank you,
man.
listener. Yeah.
You guys started this, so
You started
let's
it.
keep it going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode. We got some great guests coming up. Hang with us. Thanks for being here.
Behind the scenes bonus banter.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw a bird in the field all by itself, and it was like, I don't know, like 600 yards away. And I started calling, and I'm like, I bet you if I keep checking back, that bird's gonna get closer and closer and closer. And sure enough, all of a sudden it was like close, it was like within the same 40. And so we took off into the woods, and I've done this before on this property, but took off into the woods and knew where it was trying to go. And based on where I was calling, I'm like, he's gonna try to go right there. And got in the woods and got him to fire off a few times, and every time he was getting closer. And then all of a sudden he was really close, and because of the terrain feature, we were on one side of this ravine and he snuck in, and then all of a sudden, boom, he came right up. And I remember
Right
like
there.
I'm crouched right behind Jude, like he's gonna be here soon. He's gonna be here soon. And all of a sudden Jude goes and turns the gun, and I look, and he is right there, like 15
Oh
yards
my
away.
gosh.
And I'm like,
That's
"Are you
awesome.
on him?" He's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Take the safety off and shoot him in the head." And Jude goes, "Click." And he goes, boom, and just dumped him.
Wow. Dude, that's awesome.
His
Good for
first,
Jude for seeing him first too, like being the
yeah,
one to. Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
it
Then you don't
was
have to
cool.
like to your left. No, not that far. The other.
Yeah, right. And it was his first time without a tripod and like running and gunning, so to speak. So he was like, he thought that was the greatest thing. He's like, "I never want to sit in the blind again." And I'm like, sure. But
Hey, you gotta
yeah,
start. You gotta start. Gotta put those. Yeah, that's so fun, dude. It's just like a different element. It's pretty exciting to watch the bird come to you, but to like
yes,
go stage on a bird, that's quite the achievement for a youngster.
for
It's
sure.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Well, I was gonna have you tell that story on the pod, but you did. Will do. Yeah, Trav, Aaron, and Micah tagged out too. I haven't heard the full stories yet, but
Yeah,
they were down morning of, so I don't know where they were or what they were up to, which is kind of bittersweet because if they wouldn't have tagged out, then they were coming down to be a part of our camp, but they are not any longer.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it kind of stinks for me, anyways. Sweet for them, obviously, but
Right.
they don't get to hunt with their uncle this year.
What happens when they're just so good? They get it done.
Get it done. They don't need you anymore. Well, they do.
Just not for killing birds.
Right. Oh man, I slept horribly. And Sundays are always so draining with church and
Yeah.
whew, so I kind of have to like psych myself up for this.
I think something to get psyched about is, man, we have two really good pods, I believe now.
I think I queued it up well. And I was like, dude,
Yeah,
hunters are angsty. Like, and we're not. I'm not anxious about it. Many of them are. I'm just
yeah,
here to learn. And I think that set him at ease to, and he's clearly been able to communicate facts in a contentious environment and
yeah,
communicate the science behind it and know his
yep,
limits and know how to kind of like not get into the more emotional side of things and
right.
just be like, well, here's like, he even had boundaries like towards the end where he's like, like I can't speculate on society's reception of wolf hunting. Like, that's
Yeah,
not my call. My call is to tell you from a scientific perspective if we can hunt them or not, or if
yeah.
they could handle it, and they can. So it's not nothing really else is up to me. So, anyways,
I loved listening to that guy. I was like, man, that's a good dude. And I actually loved your segment when you talked about the bar talk, and you're like, say you're in that bar. I don't know if you drink beer. I'm not saying that.
yeah,
I loved that.
that's real though. I'm
It
just
is.
like, get off of this esoteric scientific talk for a moment and like come down to the hunter around the bar
At your
and
local
just
bar.
yeah, and I'm like, that's what matters ultimately.
Yeah.
And I think he actually appreciated me teeing it up that way, even though
Yeah.
he, I, I knew you'd love it, even if you disagreed with some of it, just from your wildlife
Man,
biology
I was
background.
I was nerding out on even the cougar piece, how far that I
Awesome.
was like, "Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh."
I shouldn't, but I've got to ask you about the cougars because that's so
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
No, I really, because it's a lot of stuff that I studied and everything too, so I really like was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. I can understand that." Yeah. Anyway, it was cool.
Did you have, when you studied, did you have a particular animal or like subspecies that you dove into?
No, not necessarily. I mean, my senior capstone was on spawning habits of salmon, which is fascinating to learn about. The short of it is when they're born, the amino acids in the stream that they were spawned in imprint on a part of their brain, and they'll go out to the sea or the ocean depending on what kind of salmon they are or where they're at, and they'll go hundreds of miles away, and then when it's time to spawn, they'll catch that scent, if you will, from a current, and they'll follow it hundreds of miles back to the exact same stream they were born in, and they will spawn in the exact same spot, which I think
Jeez,
is like incredible. So yeah,
that's wild, dude. That,
so yeah,
yeah,
that was I had to
good
write
on
like
you, God.
yeah, no kidding. I had to write like a 20-page research project on it and present in front of a board for like 45 minutes on it. It was cool. I loved it.
That's sweet. All right, let me pray and let's do it. Jesus, thanks for this fun ride. Thanks for the opportunity just to hang out with each other and to learn, God, different things about your creation through this. I don't know what ounce of influence Jonny and I have in the space that you've grown, but if it's there, help us to steward it well and be honest and speak well of you and represent you well and lead people to be more mature humans and adults and to care for your creation with more insight and intention. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Boom.
Hey there, thanks for watching this video. I'm JD, founder and crew member of the Huntxp team. We're so grateful that you took time to watch this video, and hopefully it's helping you level up your hunting game. That's what we in our community is all about, and we want to invite you into this growing community of hunters that's all about leveling up each other's hunting game. So the first thing you can do is like and subscribe, but even more than that, we got some fun things going on over at our website, huntxp.com. We'd love for you to join our community there and stay connected with what we're doing, what we're working on, and we'd love to hear about what you're after. So thank you for watching this video. We'll see you next time.